The totally awesome Ann Coulter is with us. AnnCoulter.com is the website. The latest book, Resistance is Futile. Ann, good morning. Thanks for joining us on the left coast.
Good morning.
Well, I'm looking at your Twitter account, as I always do, and you always have the facts that no one else wants to present. For example, not one of the 142 anti-Semitic hate crimes in New York City was committed by a right-winger. My goodness, Ann.
That's according to the New York Times, according to the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force. The interesting thing is, well, there are two interesting things about that. One is the victims of the anti-Semitic crimes are basically 100% Trump supporters. Most of the attacks are taking place on the Hasidic community in Brooklyn, which you may recall went about 90-10 for Trump.
Right.
So, while I don't think they were being attacked because they were Trump supporters, let's just keep that in mind here. And the second interesting fact is the New York Times printed this fact. I think the Times was just so gobsmacked by hearing the truth. Wait, this isn't our narrative. The narrative is that it's only right-wingers committing these attacks.
Right.
That the reporter just inadvertently printed the truth.
Yeah. Okay, now, again, I love your Twitter feed. I just highly recommend it. You've got a nice little meme here. Conservatives, remember to vote November 6th. Liberals, your polling day is November 7th.
The greatest thing about that was it got like 13,000 likes.
Yes.
People, and everyone knew it was a joke,
Of
obviously.
course.
Liberals, you and I were always right-wingers. No, liberals have no sense of humor. They're always saying, "Oh, why aren't there any conservatives on late-night TV?" Because it's liberals doing the booking. They're the ones who thought, what's his name, Trevor Noah was a laugh riot. I bear Trevor Noah no particular animosity, but the idea that that's why right-wingers don't have shows, when quite clearly right-wingers, they're the fun ones and funny ones, and liberals are humorless Miss Grundys going around reporting everyone to the thought police. So liberals reported that tweet to Twitter, and Twitter suspended my account over it. They say, "Oh, you have to take it down and for your Twitter feed to be back on." So of course I said, "Yeah, I'll take it down," and then pointed out, thank you, progressives. You've accomplished three things. Number one, I've always said you guys are humorless. Now you've proved it. Number two, we see Twitter censors themselves are humorless and trying to interfere with an election.
Right.
And number four, it got far wider distribution because people started tweeting out, "Hey, look what Twitter took down."
We get so much enjoyment out of reading your Twitter feed. It's right up there with Trump. I mean, we love reading his every morning, and you have so much fun on Twitter. Now, let's talk about this current election. I'm thinking to myself that once again the pollsters and the left have overplayed their hand, but I want to hear what you have to say, Ann.
I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen with the House. I think Republicans, and this is just a guess, I mean, generally what I think we've learned is that polling is not very valuable in the Trump era, probably because these lovely barrel of laughs leftists will get you fired and doxxed if you say you're a Trump supporter. Then, weirdly enough, a pollster comes calling, are you going to vote Republican? Yeah, of course. I mean, I can't imagine the scenario where someone is embarrassed to tell a pollster, I'm voting for Hillary, I'm voting for the Democrat. I can very clearly imagine a scenario where people don't want to say that they're voting for the Republican. So I'm not sure we know much about the polls. What you'd probably have to do is go into the reason I think it's number one, I like to prepare for the worst, why we might lose the House.
Okay.
I do think we're going to hold the Senate. But we had 50 Republican retirements. And incumbents get reelected about 90% of the time. But the media scared these Republicans, saying, "Oh, you're going to lose. The pussy hat wearing females. Everybody hates Trump. You're going to lose. Get out while the getting's good and get yourself a lobbyist job." Well, they scared 50 Republicans into leaving, so that's going to make it tough. And historically, the party in the White House loses 24 seats in the first midterm. I mean, that's been true since we've had midterm elections for the House. So. That we have history and retirements going against it. And, of course, Democrats have way outspent Republicans. On the other hand, we have, we have, as the title of my book suggests, we have liberals. We have the resistance is futile. And the more, Trump has just jujitsu'd the left so that the more they struggle against him, the more people say, you know, I may have some problems with Trump, but these people are crazy.
Right.
And there was the Kavanaugh thing, and now, man, if you have been watching TV, CNN and MSNBC have just been in major campaign mode. They're basically canvassing. You have all of Hollywood, you know, knocking on doors to get out the vote. So much money has been spent on their side. I mean, just to see their sad faces election night, I really am hoping we hold the House, even more than for political reasons. Senate, I think, is looking good. All these polls that show in certain states showing Republicans absolutely neck and neck, maybe even the Democrat up a few points. Florida, Georgia, is Tennessee still neck and neck? Nevada, North Dakota. I think Republicans win those. Now, in a lot of cases, that's just holding a Republican seat.
Right.
There's McSally in Arizona. Even if Republicans lose one or two of these, they're poised to pick up a few. Interestingly, shocking by my lights, the Republican in my home state of Connecticut, which I thought had gone the way of California and would never, ever elect another Republican. Okay, the Republican may not win for governor, but man, he's neck and neck with the Democrat. I thought it would be a 20-point gap.
Yeah, think about that. Ann Coulter with us, by the way, on KSFO. AnnCoulter.com, the website, the book, Resistance is Futile. You just mentioned something about immigration, and I'm reading a story this morning about former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell, former chairman of the DNC. I mean, he's saying the Democrats have gone too far left with immigration, with trying to impeach Kavanaugh if they get back the House, with abolishing ICE, with going to single payer. What do you think, Ann? They have pushed so far to the left, and there were a lot of moderate Democrats who voted for Trump in the last election. So where do they stand now, and is Rendell correct?
Yes, Rendell is not a stupid man. He knows how to get elected. Democrats used to know how to get elected, but the party has been so overtaken by the coasts, the smug identity politics, and they all agree with one another. And like I say, dox, fire, and humiliate anyone who supported Trump. They really are moving farther away from Democrats in the middle of the country. And immigration not only is the most important issue, but is a great example of that. I mean, all of these, not very long ago, you don't have to go back a half century to get lots of Democrats on the records talking about how mass low-wage immigration, both legal and illegal, drives down American wages, hurts the working class, brings crime to our country. Dianne Feinstein, Harry Reid, Obama himself. But now, just because that's the issue Trump won on, and also I guess they hate America and want to destroy it, they're just obsessed with destroying ICE. Beto O'Rourke in Texas, he won the nomination by running as a moderate Democrat. That's what Cruz was prepared for. Now, I think Cruz is down. I don't know if you know, but the Republican governor running for re-election this year is 20 points ahead of Cruz. So this is not evidence of Texas changing. This is evidence of people finding Cruz annoying. And hopefully they'll just come out and vote for him anyway.
Right.
But Beto ran as a moderate, and as soon as he won the nomination, suddenly he's for abolishing ICE, impeaching the president. He's gone total lunatic left wing.
Right.
So I don't think he's going to win in Texas. I certainly hope not. But that one's looking good. This is the argument of my book, Resistance is Futile. If liberals would read it, I'm giving them the roadmap to beat Trump, beat Republicans.
Good point.
And that is pretend you care about the working class again. Drop all this. Stop being crazy. The Russia investigation and the Kavanaugh nonsense.
Right.
All these women lying. That's, you know what it reminds me of, the Kavanaugh hearings? You will remember this, and I think many of your listeners will when I mention it. Remember that Wellstone funeral?
Oh, you've got a great blog post on this on your website, AnnCoulter.com. Yes.
It's it's really something, right? Wellstone was a very, very popular but progressive senator from Minnesota. Just about 10 days before an election, when he was up, he and many of his family members died in a small plane crash.
Yes.
It was very sad. It was awful. All these Republicans go out to the memorial. It's held in a huge stadium in Minnesota. Trent Lott was there, and other members of the Republican leadership. They didn't have to be there. They were going to honor Wellstone.
Right.
It starts off like a normal memorial, and then Democrats being Democrats, they get up, they start booing the Republicans, calling them out, chanting, political chants.
Yes.
And it was so appalling that Minnesota, and I think it reverberated nationally, but basically every Republican won in Minnesota that year.
Yeah, I remember you wrote about that, and it's so true and so timely to bring up again. Ann Coulter, the book Resistance is Futile, online, AnnCoulter.com. All right, Ann, we'll patiently wait and watch to see what happens. Then we'll bring you on the program to talk about it.
That would be great. Good to talk to you, Brian.
All right, and there she goes on KSFO.
Mini November surprise from the Team Trump. These videos that were produced, I would also put them under the heading of making America safe again, safe from lawlessness, which is essentially the modern Democrat Party. And just for kicks in the morning sometimes, I'll put on another network, one of the mainstream media, and I listened to them. And this morning they were, they were a chorus of vitriol. It was amazing to see and hear the reaction to these couple of videos, which is essentially an amalgamation of news clips and many of their own news clips. But yet they were in shock and they were in awe that the Team Trump would put these together.
Yes, it's absolutely unbelievable. Just like you, Graham, I have also been monitoring the other fake news networks, unlike this network where we tell the real story. CNN's headlines are just littered with the word racist. And I just don't believe that most Americans are falling for this trick anymore. You know, the term racism is not to be thrown around lightly. What we're talking about here is tremendous success from the Trump administration. Economic prosperity not seen since the 1960s. And then also what they're trying to say is that Americans should feel a little bit of racism for standing up for their country and wanting a secure border.
Right. And so there's two videos. I want to play both of them. Video number one, I kind of call Democrat Demolition Derby, a.k.a. Mob Rule. And again, this is a collection, essentially, of news clips, and the news clips tell the story. You don't even need any narration. Let's take a look. Roll tape.
We are in an economic boom that most folks thought was impossible. We have penetrated the 1% to 2% so-called secular stagnation zone.
Average hourly earnings up by 2.8%.
Near record levels of consumer and business confidence.
The second quarter GDP growth is impressive, 4.1%.
Lowest unemployment rate since December of 1969.
The American core economy is on fire. It's on fire like it was in the 60s.
Tortured live on Facebook for they don't know we can stand down.
That's when civility can start again.
Jobs, not mobs. That's the quintessential message here, and it paints a picture. It paints a nice contrast. Here you have a president working to get the GDP back up to where it should be, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7%, who knows, certainly well above Obama-era GDP. And then you have the Democrats who are promoting this kind of uncivil discourse in this country from their leaders, like Hillary Clinton. And I presume you could call Mad Max Maxine Waters one of their leaders. She's certainly out there at the vanguard of the Democrat Party. Bottom line is, I think this paints a very nice contrast, and it's all news footage. It's all from the major networks, all just pieced together. There's no narration here. It tells a story.
And what's also interesting about that commercial is you don't see President Trump really, except for one clip after he talks about the success of the economy right there really quickly. But I think it was just genius to end on Hillary Clinton. I mean, she's just the gift that keeps on giving. Please let us see more Hillary. Let the voters remember every day when you wake up, you should really thank the good Lord Donald Trump's the president of the United States, because if it was a President Clinton, we'd be in big trouble.
It certainly would be very different vis-a-vis this caravan that's headed toward our border. And video number 2 addresses immigration and illegal immigration issues. I think this is kind of a post-Obama era immigration lowlight reel, if you will, but it's also pointing to the problem as well as possibly what the solution is, and that's a more constitutional approach to our immigration problem. Roll tape.
Ladies and gentlemen, please step out of the hallway.
Break up soon, no, kill more. See, the only thing that we're dead is a kill too. I wish I could kill more, we'll kill more cops soon.
He says he wants to apply for pardon for the felony he committed. Attempt of murder.
And so the mainstream media is calling that one racist. Racist exactly how? This, again, is news footage, actual news footage, of people who have come into this country illegally, who have emigrated here without our consent. And it's just been pieced together, but it paints the picture. And the picture is quite a contrast between 8 years of Barack Obama. He was the racist, by the way. He was the racialist in the White House, not Donald Trump. 8 years of Barack Obama, and then possibly another 2 years of a Democrat-controlled United States Congress, versus what President Trump is trying to do. And that is secure our border and dissuade potential illegal immigrants from violating our sovereignty. That's the choice here. That's the contrast. That's what this video is about.
Absolutely. And when you see that convicted cop killer there, I do not think I have ever seen a more egregious, vile example of a human being on this earth today than his complete disregard for life. These are the type of people that you want to let in. These are the dreamers. I don't think so. I heard President Trump address reporters yesterday, and he said the number of illegal aliens in the country was somewhere between 25 and 30 million people. Now, that is definitely the most serious number we've heard, because a lot of people estimate between 11, 12, maybe 20. It's a lot more than you think. Like President Trump said, it's about 30 million. What's also interesting about that is that we let him in, the Democrats. They let him in, and then they let him stay. The American people have figured out what the Democratic Party is. The veil of hypocrisy has been lifted. We don't tell you fake news on One American News. We show you the news, and you decide. I think our viewers are smart enough to figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. I would agree with you 100%. I think our viewers are very smart, and they understand intuitively that the mainstream media is lying. But they're coming out and calling this racist. This second video, it has absolutely nothing to do with race and everything to do with national security. And this is the choice in the election. The choice is freedom and liberty, national security, and constitutional America versus anarchy. And that's what the Democrat Party, the modern Democrat Party, unfortunately promotes. And the mainstream media is in such a state of flux right now, and hyperventilation and disdain toward the 45th president of the United States, not only because he's winning, not only because he's delivering a good constitutional message, not only because he's delivering on his campaign promises, but he's the first president in United States history who is taking on the national mainstream media blow for blow, and they cannot stand it. Chris Carter, thanks.
The stakes in today's midterms couldn't be higher. If the Democrats recapture the House, assuming that the Republicans keep the Senate, it's very easy to tell what's going to happen over the next 2 years. Absolutely nothing. No bill will pass, no law will be made, no policy will be changed, nothing will be reversed, nothing will be enacted, nothing will be repealed. It's basically a vote not to have a federal government if the Democrats win the House. The entire obsession of the House will be defeating Trump in 2020, and the entire focus will be on impeachment. With my old high school buddy Jerry Nadler being in charge of the House Judiciary Committee, if the Democrats take over, you may be sure there will be a single-minded prosecutorial focus on doing anything they can to get Trump. Now, the result is preordained. They're not going to remove him because the Senate is not going to have a two-thirds Democratic majority. Probably have a Republican majority. But the House indicts, which is to say impeaches, and then the Senate tries it. And the Senate requires a two-thirds vote to remove a president, but the House can indict or impeach with a simple majority vote. So the script for the next 2 years is written. What happens to this magnificent economic boom we're having? It drops, it's curtailed, it might even end. The one thing the markets can't stand is uncertainty. Because you have to make business decisions and you look to Washington and you say, oh my God, I don't know what the climate's going to be. What's the medical industry going to look like? What's the environmental standards going to be? What will the interest rate be? What will the regulations on business and on investment be? All things that paralyze the business community. I'm not going to take on new employees. I'm not going to open new factories. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit and wait. And that's the most likely sentiment. This will deliberately bring this boom to a screeching halt. Not to say there'll be a downturn, because there won't necessarily be pessimism, but there will certainly be uncertainty. So a vote for a Democratic House or Senate at this point is really basically suicidal. I mean, there are reasons why a Democrat might choose to do that by convictions over other issues like abortion or other concerns. But in terms of the economy and the health of the country and what happens, it would be suicide. So please get out and vote, particularly if you're going to vote right. And thanks for watching.